Well, a question. When I say I, where can you put your finger on it? When you point to this chest or that head, are you sure you have found it? Now where am I? Am I here or perhaps here? No, no. When I speaks, it is not the tongue that speaks. When I knows, it is not the gray matter that knows. If you open this body, you will find organs and tissues, but no surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. The I of you, the I of me, is not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. Not a change of address in space, but a change of identification in consciousness. You cannot depart a chamber you were never in. You cannot be trapped by a container that never held you. The senses report location like a compass, gone mad north today, east tomorrow, and we call it me. But listen, in him we live and move and have our being, not in muscle, not in bone, in him. So when I say I, do not rush to the mirror, do not rush to the pulse. The life is not the heartbeat is the echo. It is the spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing. If the I were flesh, it would age when flesh ages, dim when flesh dims. Yet there is that in you which watches the changing seasons of the body and remains the watcher unwrinkled, undiminished, unconfined. The idol we are asked to unseat is not made of wood or stone. It is the belief that consciousness is housed in flesh. That idol stands in the vestibule of every fear, fear of loss, fear of pain, fear of death, because what is housed may be evicted, but what is non-local cannot be cornered. What is spirit cannot be used up. I and my Father are one. The I that speaks there is not a private personality claiming a trophy. It is the recognition of source as identity. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, there is no outside to fear, no other to oppose, no lack to chase. In that oneness, sufficiency is not accrued, it is inherent. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Now hear the thesis upon which the rest must rest. Only the non-local I can rest in divine presence. The body cannot achieve God union. The body can only attest to it as ease, as lightness, as obedience. Flesh does not enter the kingdom. Awareness awakens to the kingdom that has never been absent. The kingdom of God is within you, within, not as geography, but as the very ground of being you already are. Realization begins where localization ends. To unseat the body idol is not to despise the body. It is to free it from masquerading as the self. Then it may serve as a useful garment, an instrument, while God is the actor. And from that recognition, the path opens. Peace without audience, love without superiority, and action without strain, each the quiet fruit of the eye, that is, presence itself. Now, if we are not in the body, let us be very clear about what we are not in emotionally as well. Presence is not a storm in the nerves. Presence is not a wave that swells when the music swells and collapses when the room empties. Be still and know that I am God. Not be thrilled and know. Be still. Emotion is weather. Presence is climate. Emotion is the foam. Presence is the sea. Feeling big is not being. The spirit that quickeneth is not a sensation in flesh, for the flesh profiteth nothing. Absent from the body, present with the Lord is also absent from display, present with the hush that needs no applause. Not for show, let us settle that. When the self begins to look sideways to see who is noticing its glow, the self has already left the sanctuary. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet. And when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. In secret, presence keeps its own company. Presence does not step on a box, it bows. Presence does not announce itself. It reveals God. If the heart says, look at me, it is not presence speaking. It is the old idol polishing itself. No. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. And that oneness does not strut, it serves. So here is the test that will govern all that follows. And you can write it in your heart like law on stone. If your presence makes you superior, it isn't presence. Love is the sign. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Love levels the mountain of pride to dust. It does not climb it. Love does not need to be seen. Love sees. Love does not conquer. Love includes. Where superiority appears, separation has already crept in, and with separation, the peace drains out like water from a cracked vessel. How then shall we tell the difference between stirred emotion and authentic presence? By fruits, not flashes. By their fruits ye shall know them. The fireworks of feeling are bright and soon gone. The sunrise of presence comes quietly and stays. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Notice how silent most of those are. There is no trumpet called me in that list. It is the same as in mathematics. 2 times 2 is 4, whether you shout it or whisper it. Truth does not swell to be true. It simply is, and because it is, it orders the whole problem. It is the same as a traffic law. The honking is not the law. The quiet flow of cars reveals the law at work. So with presence, the room may not feel electric, and yet one soul ceases to fear, another forgives, a harsh word softens, and you find that peace has taken up residence without any show at all. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. When God acts, strain disappears, and comparison ceases, because there is only one acting as many. Then the measure is not how high you felt, but how deep the stillness, not how many eyes turned toward you, but how many burdens fell without anyone knowing why. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Therefore, I do not need an audience. I need God. And where grace is sufficient, peace abides. Where peace abides, presence is. And where presence is, love does its quiet, leveling work, unobserved, unboastful, unfailingly true. Now we come to the doorway of practice, and let it be as ordinary as a chair. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet. Not a cathedral, your closet. Choose a chair low enough that the thighs are level and the feet rest flat upon the floor. Sit so that the spine is free but not rigid, the head balanced as if a thread drew it gently upward. Place the hands in the lap loose, relaxed. Never rest the arms upon the chair. Let them be at ease. Close the eyes. There is no occult reason for any of this, only one of physical comfort that helps remove the body from thought. In this position, with my eyes closed, I become virtually unaware of having a body. That is all we want of the body, to be quiet enough to be forgotten. Let the breath find you. Do not count it. Do not stretch it. Do not manage God with lungs. Take no thought for your life includes Take no thought for the breath. If it is shallow, let it be shallow. If it deepens, let it deepen. You are not the mechanic, you are the witness. If a sensation calls for attention, acknowledge it and return to the hush. If the mind whispers, now we will get an experience, say softly within, no, no, not an experience. God, we adopt an interior password, not to force a door, but to stop the hand from grasping at the latch. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Whisper it within like a feather on still water. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Each time a wish rises, heal this, fix that, prove me, show me, let the phrase meet it and let it go. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. This is not magic, it is consent. It loosens the fist of desire until the palm is open to receive. Now set the intention and let it be the absence of all intentions. No asking for outcomes, no mental pictures, no projecting to persons or places. I never give human advice. I never move human thought. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Be still and know that I am God. Not be busy, not be clever. Be still. Wait desireless. Do not watch the clock. Do not measure holiness by minutes. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Waiting is not idleness. It is obedience to a law that cannot be hurried. If a warmth comes, welcome it and release it. If a light appears, bless it and let it pass. If nothing at all seems to happen, you are closest to the truth, for emptiness leaves room for the all. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Desireless waiting opens the channel. Grace, not effort, does the work. When the grasp relaxes, the river moves of itself. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, and I rest. Now, in that quiet, there comes at times a small interior event. I call it the click. Do not imagine thunder. Do not look for light. It is more like the moment a lens comes into focus. No fireworks, only the simple, indubitable recognition. I and my Father are one. Not a thought repeated, but a fact realized. It is as if a door that was never locked swings of itself, and you find you are always inside. Be still and know that I am God. In that knowing, not as belief, but as felt identity, the agitation stops reaching. The breath is no longer watched. The room falls away, and you are absent from the body, present with the Lord. When this click comes, understand what has happened and what has not. You have not created oneness. You have not pulled God down or pushed yourself up. Oneness is the fact of being. Recognition is its unveiling. It is as in mathematics. You do not manufacture 2 times 2 is 4 by concentration. You see it, and the problem yields to the principle that was there before you asked the question. So with God, the law has never slept. As you sow, so shall you reap. When the click reveals conscious oneness, you are sowing presence, and presence reproduces after its kind peace. Where there was fear, right action. Where there was confusion, sufficiency. Where there was grasping. You did not make a law work. You ceased opposing it with self-will. Do not try to use God. God is not an instrument. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. The click is not a lever to move events. It is consent to be moved, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. In that consent, a quiet order establishes itself. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. This is not a peace awarded by circumstances. It is the causative peace that arranges circumstances without strain. Like a traffic law unseen, it carries an entire city through rush hour. You cannot point to it and say, there. Yet there, it is no collisions, no honking will, only flow. Often, after the click, right words appear without premeditation, or no words at all are required, and still the situation unwinds. Take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour. I cannot tell you how many times a call has come, and before the second ring, the heart has answered without advice, without plan, and harmony has followed as naturally as dawn follows the long night. That is law operating through realization. The bush burns and is not consumed. The mind is alert and unburdened. The body serves and is at ease. Beware of imitating results without the inner consent. If the click is not present, do not manufacture signs. Wait, knock, be still. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. If impatience rises, let the password meet it. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. We are not manipulating energy. We are recognizing identity. And in that recognition, the law of God becomes operative as peace. Peace that requires no witness. Peace that becomes the seed of non-reactivity and the root of love without superiority. This is the mechanism. Realization, then law, union, then fruit. Not a bit of human might in it. Only grace, only God. What, then, is the first unmistakable sign that the law has begun to move of itself? Peace, but not the peace that puffs the chest. Peace that requires no witness. It is an inward, quiet, that does not swell the me. It lessens it. The room need not know. The family need not notice. The telephone can ring. The kettle can boil. Traffic can hum beyond the window. And yet within there is a Sabbath, not marked on any calendar. Be still and know that I am God. Notice the order. Be still and then know. But once that knowing dawns, it sustains the stillness. Knowing keeps the lake smooth even when small winds pass. This peace has no appetite for demonstration. It doesn't want to tell its story. It doesn't want to be photographed. It is sufficiency without proof, relief without performance. It is like mathematics obeying itself. 2 times 2 is 4, whether or not a class applauds. Peace does not inflate to be true. It simply is. And because it is, it orders the whole of consciousness. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds. Passeth understanding meaning, it will not submit to the mind's demand for reasons or show. It guards without guarding. It holds without holding. How shall you recognize it? Ego stops negotiating. The inner argument quiets. The impulse to defend, to explain, to angle for advantage falls away as if unhooked. There is room inside. Breath is not measured. Time is not counted. The body is not consulted. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. Not a trance, not a fog, a keen, lucid ease. The heart is at rest without a pillow. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. This is not a pose for others to see. It is pasture within, even while you wash a dish or stand in a line. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. Nothing added, nothing displayed. In my oneness with God, I find my sufficiency. No bargain, no proof. In my oneness with God, I find my peace. No condition, no claim. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. And so there is no one to outperform, no crowd to persuade, no self to promote. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. When God acts, the instrument does not hum about itself. It is content to be tuned and silent until played. This peace is the Sabbath of the heart. It is rest from self-usage. It is the end of trying to make good appear, because good is already the substance of being. The Sabbath was made for man, not as a rule of idleness, but as the law of holy rest. Rest from personal causation. Rest from taking thought. If you find yourself eager to report it, to frame it, to improve it, stop. Be still and know. If you cannot be still, then whisper the password that lays the hand open. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, not by might, not by performance, by my spirit. Peace that requires no witness is not indifferent. It is free. It neither clings nor resists. It is content to be hidden because it cannot be lost. And you will know it by this mark above all. It satisfies you without an audience. It needs no eyes upon it to be complete, for it has its origin not in emotion but in being. I am not in the physical. I am that I am one with the one. And in that oneness the heart rests, silently sure, quietly whole. Peace proves itself when someone leans on the horn behind you, when a stranger cuts in front of you, when the queue halts and the clock does not. Peace proves itself when a word of criticism arrives, fair or unfair, and the old reflex reaches for armor. In those moments, do you find the Sabbath still inside, without making a show of it, without swallowing anger like poison and calling it virtue? Or does the needle jump? I am not asking for stoicism. I am asking for presence. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. Rule, not visit. Rule, not perform. Non-reactivity is not wooden. It is governed. It is the law of the spirit reigning where the old tyrant of personality used to reign. Think of it as mathematics. 2 times 2 is 4. You can deny it, you can rush it, you can shout over it, but the bridge built on 5 will fall. It is the same with inner stillness. Violate the principle, and reactions multiply. Keep the principle, and the whole structure of the moment holds. It is the same as a traffic law. The wise driver does not outshout the red light, he obeys, and the city moves. So, with the soul, when the pressure comes and the mind lunges to take over, remember my conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, there is no enemy, no rival, no clock to conquer. The law is operative as peace. If you try to use peace, you lose it. If you consent to it, it governs. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. Now, let disturbance be your teacher, not your foe. A spike in the pulse, a flush in the face, a tightness in the jaw. This is not sin. It is a readout. It reveals. The instant you slip back into the body idol and begin to localize the I in nerves and pride, absent from the body, present with the Lord, say not to escape but to unseat the false seat. Ask, where did I place myself just now? in a reputation, in a schedule, in a right to be first. No, no. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot serve oneness and a private claim at the same moment. The gauge tells you, thank it and return. How? Pause. Close the inner door, even with eyes open at a red light or facing an email that stings. Whisper within, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Do not push that grace toward the other driver or the critic. Do not project weight, desireless. Be still and know that I am God. Wait for the click, not a sensation, not a triumph, only that small, sure sense that I and the Father are one, and therefore no defense is needed. Then, if a word is to be spoken, it will be given you in that same hour. Often it will be silence. Sometimes it will be a soft answer, and the soft answer turneth away wrath. Sometimes it will be the simple act of letting the other car in as if it were your own. Effortless, unclaimed. You will know the measure by these little crucibles. The horn sounds, and your hand remains at rest. The inbox shakes its fist, and your reply is either kindness or none at all. The stalled line becomes a monastery cell for half a minute, and you are kept. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. In my oneness with God, I find my sufficiency. Therefore I need not react to complete myself. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Love is the next sign, and it comes without trumpets. If your presence makes you superior, it isn't presence. Love is the sign uncompetitive, unadvertised. Love thy neighbor as thyself is not a moral feat. It is a recognition of self. The self is one. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, neighbor and self are not two circles that barely touch. They are one. Life appearing as many faces. Where there is oneness, there can be no ranking. Where there is oneness, superiority has no oxygen. It falls to dust. In oneness, there is nothing to take, nothing to prove. Therefore, nothing to fear. Fear feeds comparison. Love ends it. Perfect love casteth out fear. Not sentiment, not favoritism law. As surely as 2 times 2 is 4. Love is the principle that holds the structure of life. You do not get more bridge by shouting at mathematics. You get a safe bridge by obeying it. So with love, obey it as law, not as display. Thou shalt have no other gods before me includes the God of status, the God of being right, the God of spiritual accomplishment. No, no. When those idols fall, you find that love is not a mood you manage. It is the atmosphere of God realized. How will this love show itself? Quietly, first in the voice. Gentler speech appears before you plan it. The sentence that would have been sharp becomes soft, or it never forms. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. Then in judgment, slower judgments, because you are not rushing to protect a private throne. Judge not, that ye be not judged. You will notice that the inner scoreboard stops clicking. No keeping tally of who yielded, who apologized, who owes. The left hand does not know what the right hand does. You hold the door and forget it. You let another merge and remember only the flow. You answer a message kindly and do not bookmark it as virtue. You share credit. You take blame lightly. You pass by gossip as if it were not offered to you at all. This is not weakness. It is government. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. The instrument does not boast of the music. It consents to be played. In that consent, you look across at the so-called least and recognize the same life looking back. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Superiority cannot live in that sight. It has no footing. You do not stoop to serve. You stand with and serve because there is no above or below in God. And when the old reflex of elevation rises, see how loving I am, catch it as you would a spark near dry grass. Stop, be still. Ask, where did I place myself just now? In applause? In credit? In a tale to tell later? No. Return. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, not by might, not by moral muscle, by my spirit. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. Therefore, I need not compete. In my oneness with God, I find my security. Therefore, I need not compare. In my oneness with God, I find my peace. Therefore, I need not be first. Presence expresses as unassuming love that level superiority to dust. It asks for no witness. It seeks no rank. It simply is, and because it is, the world around you softens, steadies, and is blessed. Let us be very plain now. Love is not your decoration. It is law. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. These are not options, not ornaments pinned to a willing lapel. They are the statement of a cosmic principle, as fixed as mathematics. You do not choose whether 2 times 2 is 4. You align with it and you build a sound bridge. You do not choose whether a red light means stop. You obey, and a city moves in order. It is the same with love. Where the one is recognized as the only God, the law of love orders the many. Where another God is set up, self-advantage, spiritual pride, getting rather than giving, the stream snarls and collisions follow. Do not try to bend this law to your projects. You cannot. When you try to bend law for self-advantage, it bends you. As ye have sown, so shall ye reap. A cosmic law is a double-edged sword. Use it to exalt a private self, and the edge turns in your hand. You violate 2 times 2 is 4, and you have brought the wrath of the principle of mathematics upon you, not anger. Principle. You run a red light and the consequence arrives, not spite, law. So if you attempt to love for effect, to forgive as a tactic, to give in order to be praised, you have smuggled another God into the sanctuary and the harmony will tell on you. No. The law works impersonal to persons, universal to particulars, and it cannot be bribed by sentiment. This should remove pride at the root. Goodness is not yours. It is God's nature appearing where resistance drops. There is none good but one, that is, God. If gentleness has come to your voice, if generosity has visited your hand, do not polish it as your jewel. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. The instrument is quiet until played, and when the music ceases, it does not boast of its resonance. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. Therefore, I do not need a virtue badge. In my oneness with God, I find my sufficiency. Therefore, I do not draw interest on kindness. In my oneness with God, I find my peace. Therefore, I do not turn charity into capital. Bring this down into the street where we walk. The traffic law preserves flow. You stop for the light. You yield to merge. You keep your lane. And the city moves almost as if by grace. Break it, speed, cut, ignore, and the same city becomes a tangle, horns and heat. The love law is the same. Keep to oneness, no other gods, no superiority, and families move, teams move. Even strangers in queues move with less friction. Violate it. Insert self-advantage. Polish reputation. Rehearse injuries and collisions appear. Sharp words. Hidden resentments. The ache of isolation. Not punishment. Consequence. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. Now hear the relief. You are never asked to manufacture goodness. You are asked to stop resisting the law that already is, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Enter the closet, be still, relinquish the project of being good. Let the law of one govern. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Whisper it until the demand to be seen releases, until the desire to get quiets, until the click of oneness makes the law operative without your meddling. Then loving action arrives of itself, effortless and unclaimed, and order returns as naturally as dawn. Cosmic law, not personal goodness. God is the actor, we consent and harmony follows. Effortless, right action is not laziness. It is law expressing itself without your strain. It is the deed that seems to do itself. The next step arises as naturally as breath returns after a pause, and it fits, fit in timing, fit in tone, fit in scope without your scheming. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Hear that, and let it unseat a lifetime of self-doing. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. When the click of oneness has come, the bow need not scratch to find the note. It is placed, and the music is already in motion before the mind claims authorship. How shall you recognize such action? There is no residue, no aftertaste of fatigue, no pride to polish. When presence leads, you are spent of self, but not tired. You are used, but not used up. It is God which worketh in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. The willing is given, the doing follows as day follows dawn. Often you will find that what you were about to attempt dissolves, and a simpler instruction internalizes not in words first, but in a settled rightness. Then, when words are required, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour. You discover you are saying the needed sentence, or keeping the needed silence, and the room breathes. Non-interference is the posture that keeps the channel clear. Do not force outcomes. Do not advise as if you were a little providence. I never give human advice. If you ask me, what shall I do? I will ask you, have you stood still? Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Wait until the instruction has moved from idea to identity, from something you hold to something holding you. If there is no click, there is no command. No, no. Do not project thought at persons. Do not push events with will. Let the law of oneness govern. And when the step appears, it will be as ordinary as tying a shoe, and as perfect as a sum that balances itself. I could tell you 1,000 small proofs, and each would be the same story. Timing and fit. A man once came to my door with a problem, and before his hand touched the bell, the inner word had already come. Not advice, but release. We sat in quiet. No method, no counsel. He left saying, I don't know why, but the decision is plain. 2 days later, he wrote that the matter had untangled itself, and in the untangling, blessed 2 others he had not even considered. This is the mark. More is blessed than you intended, because it was never your intention. Another time, a train delay, which the old self would have fought, became an appointment with a stranger who poured out an ache and discovered, without my prompting, the very door in her own heart she had closed. I said little. The Spirit said all. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Effortless does not mean passive. It means governed. The steps of a good man are ordered of the Lord. Ordered, not hustled. Right action has the quiet of a traffic law obeyed. The whole flow benefits, and no one driver can claim authorship of the order. Right action has the certainty of 2 times 2 is 4. You do not argue it into place. You see, and you move, and the problem yields. When presence leads, action unfolds without strain and without self-claim. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. Therefore, I do not grasp. In my oneness with God, I find my sufficiency. Therefore, I do not scheme. In my oneness with God, I find my peace. Therefore, I do not hurry. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And the work is done, and no one can say, I did it, save the one who is the doer of all good. There are snares on this path, and they glitter like virtue. The first is the need to be seen as spiritual. Beware that hunger. It is the old self in new robes. Let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth. When presence is true, it is content to remain hidden. The second snare is projection, mentally pushing help at persons, sending thoughts to bend events, arranging outcomes by psychic shove. No. That is manipulation, not ministry. The third is Methodist spectacle. Techniques performed to impress. Voices lowered. Hands poised to dazzle a room. Showmanship is a prayer to another god. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. For protection, I lay down prohibitions as guardrails, not as displays of strictness. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contacts. I never give human advice. I did not consciously project myself to anyone, and I hope you will never try to do it. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. The instrument does not thrust itself into the score. It waits to be played by the one who wrote the music. Understand the harm. A cosmic law is impersonal. It blesses impersonally and it rebounds impersonally. When you try to use a law for self-advantage or to prove something about yourself, the very edge you wield turns against you. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. You violate 2 times 2 is 4, and you bring the collapse of the bridge, not because mathematics is angry, but because it is exact. Poor engineering does not merely disappoint the engineer. It breaks the structure and endangers those who walk upon it. So with showmanship, projection, and occult tampering, they do not only fail, they fray the nerves, swell the ego, and introduce disorder into circles that trusted you. Do not tamper. Do not try it to see. This is a double-edged sword. What then keeps you safe? Return to silence. Seek God alone. Keep the work private until love, not ego, moves you. And if love truly moves you, you will not call it your work. Enter the inner closet and shut the door. Be still and know that I am God. Not be dazzling. Be still. If someone asks for counsel, refuse the role of providence. Ask them to be still with you. Take no thought is the law of protection. If a story demands to be told so that you may shine, let it pass. If a technique begs to be shown so that you may gather followers, let it fall to the floor. Woe unto you, when all men shall speak well of you, for applause is a poor lantern on the path. Keep the simple safeguards. Do not advertise experiences. Do not promise outcomes. Do not move beyond the click. If there is no interior consent, there is no commission. Wait, knock, whisper within. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace, not charisma, not pressure, not projection. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. Therefore, I need not perform. In my oneness with God, I find my sufficiency. Therefore, I need not manipulate. In my oneness with God, I find my peace. Therefore, I can be unnoticed and be glad. Stay with silence and love, and the law will keep you as surely as a red light keeps a city from harm. God is the actor. Let him act. Let us make this very simple and very exact. For 7 days, twice each day, take 10 minutes for desireless receptivity. Morning before the world is upon you, evening before rest. Sit in your chair, hands loose, eyes closed. Be virtually unaware of having a body. No project, no petition, no reaching. Wait. Be still and know that I am God. If the click comes only that gentle certainty, I and my Father are one, do nothing with it. Rest in it. If it does not, do nothing about that. Whisper within, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And keep the waiting free of bargaining. God is the actor. You are the instrument. There is nothing to add to principle. There is only consent. Keep this experiment private. Do not advertise it. Do not promise yourself results. Let law, not will, be the governor. Each evening, make a quiet review, not of visions, not of achievements, but of fruits. First, peace without witness. Was there any hour today in which you were content to be unseen, inwardly at rest without telling anyone? If so, note it not as a trophy, but as a trace of presence. If not, note the places you hungered for eyes and return to stillness. Second, non-reactivity under pressure. When the horn sounded, the email stung, the schedule tightened, did you pause inside? Did you allow peace to rule rather than perform self-control? Where you failed, forgive quickly. You have as much right to forgive yourself 70 times 7 as to forgive your neighbor. Third, love without superiority, in word or deed. Did love appear without condescension, without the secret pleasure of being the generous one? Did you level the ground under another's feet by simply being with them as one life, where you find the old rank rising? Say no, no. Return. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. All through the day weave a single thread. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Whisper it at the thresholds, before opening a door, before answering a call, before sending a message, before stepping into a room, before speaking when adrenaline swells, before counting a grievance, before sleep, and in the midnight when thought begins to calculate. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then let the litany anchor identity. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. In my oneness with God, I find my security. In my oneness with God, I find my peace. In my oneness with God, I find my joy. In my oneness with God, I find my fulfillment. Not as order suggestion, as simple recognition of what is. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. If on any day nothing seems to move, keep the silence. Do not push. Do not analyze the plant while it grows. First the blade, then the ear. After that, the full corn in the ear. If on any day love floods you, keep that secret with God. If on any day a failure pricks you, turn it into a kneeling. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. The only measure in this experiment is fruit peace that needs no audience, non-reactivity that holds when pressed, love that forgets to be superior. That is all. Now we seal this in gratitude, not resolve. Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, not I, but the Father within doeth the works. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness, my security, my peace, my joy, my fulfillment. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. And so it is. And I thank you.